Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another video. The other day we spoke about the Bad Batch Season 3, with a heavy focus on the clones. I discussed various theories in depth, and by all accounts, one would assume the final season of the animated show is going to have the highest stakes. And today, in what is essentially part 2 of that video, we're going to explore a different aspect of the galaxy at this time, one which pertains to galactic politics, which was teased in the second season. We see early rebels such as Rayo Chuchi, who was advocating for clone rights, Bail Organa, and some other senators as well, Tynra Pamlo from Rogue One. Here is where the seeds of my theory come in. Since they're doing a lot with the Rogue One/Andor characters, we had director Krennic, Saw Gerrera's been in the first 2 seasons of the Bad Batch, Bail Organa and Pamlo. I think Season 3 is going to take this to the next level, but not just on the forefront of Rebel versus Empire, but also rebels who were once Separatists, notably Anto Kreegyr. The Bad Batch Season 2 gave us a very different perception of the CIS. Separatist holdouts were often humanized, especially when contrasted with the Empire, which they never stood a chance against. Allow me to break this down. The primary backdrop of the Bad Batch has been the early days of the Galactic Empire, how the end of the Clone Wars affected various clones, and now we have Rex on a resistance mission with the rescued Hauser, Nemik, Fireball, Echo, Gregor, and in the 3rd season we're going to see Wolf, as was teased at Star Wars Celebration. But in its first 2 seasons, the animated sequel to the Clone Wars show has done more than just focus on these clones. We didn't just see fighters for the Republic, but we were also offered a glimpse into the fate of Separatist worlds. What was so cleverly achieved with exploring former CIS planets, especially ones that were deserted and now taken over with force by the Empire, is that the creatives were able to defy our assumptions about them, flip the script so to speak. Throughout the 7 seasons of the Clone Wars, in Attack of the Clones, in Revenge of the Sith, we saw the Separatists as evil. We know Palpatine was manipulating both sides, but we still saw the Republic as integral and was the so-called good guy. And unlike in the prequel trilogy and the animated show, they proved that those who weren't necessarily the big Separatist players and politicians were also victims. We'll get onto this later in the video. We saw the everyday, the reality of the aftermath of war, how these civilians did not often care for the ideals or the methods of their leaders, and they were helpless and suffered when overtaken. And even those who did, even those that once believed in the cause, showed that good really is a point of view. The script was flipped on its head. A great example of this is Governor Tawny Ames of Desix. So much for peace. The citizens of these CIS strongholds were not all evil. They were promised a better life by manipulators and pillagers such as Count Dooku. And this brings us on to Sereno. Tech, Echo and Omega run into a Serenian survivor, Romar Adel, who revealed the source of Dooku's wealth. While stating that Dooku stole money from other planets, Adel reveals that Dooku's wealth also came from exploiting his own people on that world. This is in direct contrast to the Dooku from Tales of the Jedi, who fought against this exact thing. In other episodes of the 2nd season, such as The Crossing and Retrieval, we see a lifeless planet which was also associated with the Separatist Alliance. Searching for their stolen ship, the Bad Batch come into contact with Benny, the young thief who stole it. He explains that the mine where he works was once run by the Techno Union, which was forced out by the Empire. His boss, a slaver called Moko, moved in to replace them, highlighting how the defeat of the Separatists did not see them being reigned by anything better. They never stood a chance against the Empire, and the Empire was harsh. Even from day one, look what happened to them in the Mustafar system in Revenge of the Sith. The Separatist leaders were sent to their deaths by Darth Sidious, where his new apprentice, Darth Vader, slaughtered them. The Bad Batch has done a fantastic job contextualizing everyday people who were caught in the middle of war. But don't get it wrong, many were evil like Moko, who saw the power vacuum and decided to exploit it. This ruthless owner of a large Ipsium mine, a crew of children who work for him, forced to compete for favours and title of quote, top earner. He was overthrown though, but prior to his downfall he was able to operate as a low-level tyrant. His actions, his ethics, everything went unchecked, unchallenged. So while the Techno Union was forced out, the Empire did nothing to stop criminals from flourishing. It showed us the Empire never intended to establish order. So how does this feature into the Bad Batch Season 3? So now we get to the meat and potatoes. What is the direct connection to Andor and Anto Kreegyr? Well, we spoke about the Separatists and their frustration with the way the Empire just took over. If Anto Kreegyr's motive is similar to what happened on Desix, that his homeworld was trampled on and occupied by evil Imperial forces, Saw Gerrera lists several groups, and by the sounds of things, after the Empire took over, surviving Separatist sympathizers and holdouts formed some kind of new alliance, one that was much more militant, and one that resembles a group of partisans, which would make sense given these are common before the original trilogy. I'm predicting in the same way that Saw Gerrera is an extremist partisan who doesn't fit neatly into a box and will do anything to put a stick in the eye of the Empire, Anto Kreegyr might be very similar, with the same goal, but coming from a different place. And I also wonder if at this time, Saw was a bit more open-minded and worked with Kreegyr, and were able to put their differences aside. Being a separatist during the war would have put Anto Kreegyr at odds with figures we know who defended the sanctity and the values of the Galactic Republic, especially those that ended up forming the delegation of the 2000, and then the Alliance to Restore the Republic, the Rebels. During the war, Saw Gerrera hated the Separatists and what they did on Andor. As a partisan, he was always willing to engage in extreme acts in order to defend what he believed in. Anto is very similar, anti-Imperial, but definitely not someone who aligns with the same political and ideological values of some other characters we know, such as Mon Mothma or even Luthen. The first 2 seasons of The Bad Batch have already shown us the origins of Saw Gerrera's extremism. We also see it in Rebels and Rogue One. Maybe Saw relied on Anto's help. Now you might be saying, well, it's Luthen who wanted Saw and Anto Kreegyr to meet, implying they'd never done so. But Saw seemed to know quite a lot about his background, his beliefs, and it sounds as though he's at least heard of him, and perhaps there was a betrayal, which is why Saw and Luthen are more than willing to throw him under the bus and take the fall in Andor. They allowed him to fall into the Empire's trap so that Luthen could remain a mole. Introducing the likes of Kreegyr could do a lot for the weight he holds in that first season of the show, since Lucasfilm, in visual guides, in other ways on their website, are trying to tie together all of the shows that pertain to the rebellion versus the Empire, and with the example of one of the senators from Rogue One appearing in Season 2, a stronger link would be fantastic. And maybe Anto Kreegyr connects to Roland Durand from the first season. As I say, criminals, separatists, they're all doing very interesting things at this time. The 3rd season of The Bad Batch could also give us the origin stories of some of the other rebels from Andor, for example Sintra and Vel, or the mercenary work of the Andor family, the Andor couple who adopted Cassian. I think we put so much focus on the clones that subplots pertaining to other galactic occurrences go under the radar. The connections are there, but the 3rd season is the perfect place to explore someone like Anto Kreegyr, who is clearly a significant figure at this time. But what do you guys think? Share your thoughts in the comments down below. Are you enjoying these Bad Batch videos? Let me know. If you enjoyed this one, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. May the Force be with you, always.